Hello and welcome to Bite My Pie. Are you fed up with all those little nasties off the internet infecting your computer? Perhaps you're tired of waiting for the latest stream of never-ending updates to install and then weighing down your PC so it runs slower than a three-legged tortoise. Using a computer shouldn't have to be so much of a struggle. Wouldn't it be nice then to find a less stressful alternative? So what can you do? Some people go for a fruity flavoured experience, but what if you don't want to take out a second mortgage to fulfill your technological needs? Do you really need to kill off your existing laptop and go buy new hardware to improve the situation? No, because luckily for the rest of us, there's Linux, a completely free and open source solution. And in this video, we'll look at installing and then getting to grips with Zorin OS, an ideal option for refugees from the more mainstream operating systems. So if this sounds appealing to you, stick around. To be able to install Zorin OS, we first need to download it. So if you start by opening up a web browser and searching for Zorin OS, and the website that we want is this one, zorinos.com. From the home page you can click this blue button, download Zorin OS, and if you scroll down the download page you'll notice there are different editions of Zorin OS. So at the top we've got the Ultimate Edition, which has extra features, but that one is paid for. And then below that we've got the Core Edition, which is the one we're going to download in just a second. Next down we've got the Lite Edition, which you'd use if you're going to install Zorin OS onto an older computer. And then at the bottom we've got an Education Edition, which as the name suggests is full of educational programs. And then if we scroll below that, we've got this handy chart which lists some of the differences between the various editions. Now obviously go for whichever edition you feel meets your needs best. Regardless of which one you choose, you'll still be able to use this video as a guide to help you with the installation process and to get to grips with the operating system. But as I mentioned a moment ago, if we scroll back up, we're going to use the Core Edition here. The reason being is that this edition will give us the main operating system, and then as you'll see later in the video we'll be able to flesh this out and tailor it to suit our own requirements. So to get started, click the download button. Here we get a pop-up where you can enter your email address to sign up for the newsletter if you'd like to do so, or alternatively just click this skip to download option. And then choose where you want to save it on your computer, which I'm going to leave it in the downloads directory, and click save. As you might imagine, being an entire operating system, it is quite a hefty download, but depending on the speed of your internet connection, hopefully it will download in a reasonable amount of time. If you're running Google's Chrome browser, you'll see the estimated download time here in your taskbar. If that's taking longer than should be reasonably expected for the speed of your broadband, which 8 hours as it's now gone to is a very long time, if we come to the Show All and cancel the download and then close that tab and go back to the Downloads tab of Zorin OS, if we click the Download Now link, that will take us to the sourceforge.net website and start the download again. Clicking Save here might not be any faster than before, so instead click the Cancel button and now click this Problems Downloading, and here you get a list of alternative locations that you can download the Zorin OS image from, so you could try one of these and see if it's any faster. If I scroll down, I'll go with France because it looks out of that list as if it's the closest to the UK where I'm based. And now I can click the save button to download it from the mirror in France. And if we look in the taskbar now, you can see that's considerably faster than before. I'll pause the video and come back when the process is complete. Great, our download's complete. If we open up File Explorer and go to the downloads directory, you can see there we've got Zorin OS, the current version 15.2 disk image file. The next step is to get that image file onto a USB stick so that we can boot our computer from the USB stick to install Zorin OS from it. To do this, we're going to need a free tool which we can download from the internet. Now, I'd usually recommend Etcher for this process, but just to spice things up a little bit and try something different, this time we're going to use Rufus. So that's R-U-F-U-S. If we type that into Google and search, we're looking for this website here, rufus.ie, so I'll click that one. Like Etcher, Rufus is also open source, so if we scroll down the page to the download section here, the top link would download the full program to install onto our computer, but better yet, if we click this Rufus Portable and save that to our downloads directory, this gives us a version of the program that doesn't even need to be installed. With that downloaded, we can close the web browser, and if we come back to our downloads directory, you can now see we've got the Rufus application sitting there waiting for us. Because we're using the portable version of Rufus, it's a good idea to create a separate directory to put it into, as it generates some additional files when you run it. So let's right click and choose New Folder, and I'm just going to call it Rufus, and then I'm going to click and drag Rufus into the Rufus directory and double click to go in there. Now double click on Rufus to launch the program and say yes to continue. It's asking if we want to check for updates online. As we're running the portable version of the program, we don't really need to do this, so click no. And we're now ready to copy our Zorin OS image. If you haven't already, you need to insert your USB stick into your computer, so I'll do that now. And there we go, it's automatically detected my USB stick, 64GB Kingston Data Traveller. And we can now click this select button to look in our downloads directory for the Zorin OS image that we downloaded earlier, and click on open. Make sure that the partition scheme is set to MBR and the target system is set to BIOS or UEFI, as this will give it the best chance of working on most computers. Everything else can be left on the defaults, and then you can click the start button. It's telling us in this pop-up that Rufus requires some additional files to work correctly, so we just need to click the yes button for it to download them and work automatically. And then it's letting us know that our image can be written in ISO image mode, which is recommended, or DD image mode. Leave it on the default that's recommended, but if you have any trouble booting from your USB stick when we come to the installation of Zorin OS shortly, you may need to repeat this procedure using the other mode, but for now just click the OK button. And then it's warning us that any existing data on that USB stick is about to be wiped, so obviously don't use a memory stick with anything important still on it. And when you're happy to continue, click OK. It's now copying our image onto the USB stick, which will probably take a little while, so I'll pause the video and come back when the process is complete. And that's it, the process is complete, so we can close the software and right click on the USB drive and eject it, and now it's safe to remove, so you can physically take it out of your computer. And we're now ready to boot the computer onto which you want to install Zorin OS from the USB stick. Okay, I've powered on the PC I'm going to install Zorin OS onto, and I'm tapping the corresponding key F7 to enter the boot menu. And from here I can use the cursor keys on my keyboard to tap down to select the USB drive that's got the Zorin OS installer on it. And then I just need to press enter to select it. When this menu appears, the default option try or install Zorin OS should be selected, so you can just wait for it to time out and go into that option. Now a nice option with Linux is you can try it out before you install it. If you were to click this button, try Zorin OS, that would load the operating system from the USB stick and let you have a play around with it and make sure everything works before you install it onto your computer. But to save time, I'm going to assume that you've already done that, and we're going to skip straight into the installation. So when you're happy to proceed, click Install Zorin OS. On this next screen we need to choose our keyboard layout. So for me that's English UK. You select the one that suits you and click Continue. If you're planning to connect over Wi-Fi, you'll need to select your wireless network here and enter the relevant details. I've added this screenshot for demonstration purposes because if, like me, you've got an Ethernet cable connected to your computer, this step won't even show up, so you won't need to bother about it. And then we have some choices to make about updates and software. So I'm going to leave the download updates while installing Zorin OS checked, and I'm also going to let it install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats, as this option will help Zorin OS run better with our hardware, and it will also make the operating system work better by supporting a wider range of media. And then this third checkbox is for whether you wish to participate in the census or not. So I'm not going to do that, and then when you're happy with your options, click Continue. Now it's time to choose what type of installation we want. You can see that it's detected that I've already got Windows on this computer and it's offering to install Zorin OS alongside it. You may want to do this and dual boot between the two operating systems, but I'm going to choose this option, erase disk and install Zorin OS, and have Zorin as the only operating system on the computer. If you're installing this on a laptop or are just generally concerned about security, you've got the option to encrypt the operating system by checking the box here. I'm not going to do that, nor am I going to use logical volume management, so let's click Install Now to begin the installation. And it gives us this nice warning just informing us of the changes that we're about to make to our hard disk, and we can carry that out by clicking Continue. Next we need to select the area where we're located. It's detected that I'm in the UK and automatically selected London for me, so I can click Continue here. And now we need to set up a user account for the computer. I'm going to call it Byte My Pi, and then if I either tab down or click in the next box, and we need to give it a computer name, so I'll just go with Byte My Pi PC for the computer, and the username can be Byte My Pi as well, and the password, just enter a password and confirm it. You're probably going to want to leave require my password to log in checked, and when you've entered all of that information, click Continue. And here we go, it's installing the operating system for us. Now would be an excellent time to go grab yourself a cup of coffee, because this process will take a little while. I'm going to pause the video and I'll see you on the other side. Splendid! Zorin OS is now installed, so as it tells us there on the screen, we now need to restart our computer. So let's do that now. It's now booted to the logon screen, and we can click our username and type in the password that we set during the setup, and either press enter on the keyboard or click the sign in button. And here we have the Zorin OS desktop. It's detected that there's some more updates available. Updates in Linux generally don't take very long, which is a bonus. It's always worth making sure that you keep your computer up to date. You can click the little arrow here which will show you exactly what the updates are that are waiting. And if you click the settings button, you can control exactly how you want the updates to work. As you can see, it will automatically check for updates every day by default. It will display security updates immediately, and it will show other updates weekly. Feel free to change these options to suit your requirements. You can even set the security updates to download and install automatically if you'd sooner. So if we close the settings window, let's quickly update Zorin OS by clicking install now. And then all you need to do is enter your password and click authenticate. If you want to see what it's actually doing, you can click the details drop down. And there we have it, the operating system's now up to date, so I'll do a quick restart and rejoin you in a moment. Welcome back. Let's start to first familiarise ourselves with the interface. One of the main reasons Zorin OS is such a good choice for people new to Linux is because of its easy to use layout. In fact, anyone that's ever used a computer shouldn't have any difficulty getting to grips with it. At the bottom left, we've got a traditional start menu. Here you'll see that there are several programs already installed to get you going. These are grouped into categories in the menu down here on the left. I won't go through them all, but I'll just point out a few of the more useful ones. Under accessories, if we click on that, we've got maps. So if we launch that one, this uses OpenStreetMap for its geographical data. Now you can either click the little icon here to pinpoint your location, but for that to work you'll have to go into location settings here and turn on location services, as by default for privacy that's turned off. If you don't fancy doing that, alternatively you can enter a location into here. So if I was to put in London for example and press enter, and then if I select London, England from the drop down, you can see it's going to take us on the map to London. And then I can either use these plus and minus buttons up here to zoom in or zoom out, or alternatively I can use the scroll wheel on my mouse to do the same thing. This map type button here is a nice feature because it allows us to choose between the map selection we're currently on or a photo type view by selecting this one here, which if you zoom in on that you can have a good look around. Also in the accessories section of the start menu is the to-do program. This is ideal for those of you who like to keep organised. You can click on here and then type in a new task. So I'll just call it my to-do list and press enter. And then if you click the drop down arrow you can add some notes here. So you could say very important note. You could then set a date as to when you need to do it by. So let's click a date in there, and then even set a priority. So give it one there. And if we go back you can see we've now got my to-do list there, and it's down in the schedule. Another nice touch in the start menu accessories section is this weather app. If we enter the name of a city as it says there, so let's go with London, United Kingdom, This then gives us a nice graphical display for the weather over the coming days ahead. Then back in the start menu, this time in the graphics category, you've got the excellent GNU image manipulation program, or GIMP for short. If you're not familiar with this program, it's a great free alternative to the likes of Adobe's Photoshop. Also in the graphics category, we've got the Shotwell image viewer. As the welcome tip tells us, to get started you need to import your photos into the program. You can either drag and drop them into the Shotwell window here. You could connect your camera to your computer to import them, or as we're going to do here, we're going to import them from a folder. So if I click OK there, and then we come up to File and Import from Folder, and then point it to our Pictures folder and say OK. Now at the moment I've only got one picture in the Pictures folder, but obviously if you had more in there it would import them all. So if you click OK, you can then see your picture or pictures within Shotwell. And all you need to do is double click on one of the thumbnails. I've only got one, so I'm not exactly spoilt for choice. And then you can view your image much larger. The program has also got some nice editing features along the bottom here. Okay, we've also got the built-in document viewer in the graphics section of the start menu. And this is an excellent little tool for viewing things like your PDFs. Taking care of our office needs, we've got the LibreOffice suite built in. For anyone not already familiar with this package, it's an open source alternative to Microsoft's Office suite. It will even open up documents created in Microsoft software. So you've got LibreOffice Calc, which is an alternative to Microsoft's Excel. You've got LibreOffice Impress, which is an alternative to PowerPoint. And you've guessed it, LibreOffice Writer is the alternative to Microsoft Word. Now LibreOffice by default will save documents in its own file types. But as a lot of the world still uses Microsoft Office, it can be a good idea to switch this so that the Office suite saves them in the Microsoft file format. So let's do that now. If we launch LibreOffice Writer, and then if you click this little icon at the top left to show the menu bar, we can now go to the Tools drop down list and click Options. And then if you expand this little load save section and click on General, here you can see the default file format settings. So because we're going to switch from the default ODF open document format file types, we don't want it warning us every time when we don't save in those, so let's uncheck the box here first. And now let's change our default file types. So for text documents, in other words Microsoft Word type files, if you choose this drop down box here and we choose the Word 2007 to 365 docx as the default, and if you now change the document type to spreadsheets and click this drop down list, and now we're going to set that to Excel 2007 to 365.xlsx as the default file type. And then lastly, if we change to presentation, so PowerPoints, and we're going to save those by default as PowerPoint 2007 to 365.pptx file types. And then if you click Apply and then OK, and that's it. Now when you save any of your files, they'll be in the Microsoft file types so that they're compatible with Microsoft's Office suite. In the sound and video category, we've got the Rhythmbox music player built in. Besides playing all of your audio files, it's got a very nice online sources section built into it. So if you like listening to the radio, you could be interested in this section here. It has some stations included by default, but if it doesn't have the one that you're after, fret not, because it's easy enough to add one. I'm in the UK, so let's say I like listening to Radio 2. We need to get the URL for that radio station. If I launch a web browser, you may have already noticed that the default browser for Zorin OS is Firefox. Now if you're not a fan of that, I'll show you how to change it to a different one shortly, but for now let's use it. If I search for BBC Radio 2 URL, so if I click on this link here to get the Radio 2 URL, and if I right click on it there and copy the link location, I can close the web browser and come back to our music player. And now if I click the add button, and it's already picked it up from my clipboard, so if I just click add, we can see I've now got this BBC link, and if I double click that, there you go, we're now listening to Radio 2. Let's stop that. It's worth noting that if you've got music playing and you were to close Rhythmbox, it will keep playing in the background, so if you don't want that to happen, either stop it first as we just did, or come up to the top left and choose quit. Back in the start menu in the System Tools category, we've got this main menu option. In here you can control exactly what shows up on your start menu and in what order. Also in the System Tools category we have Startup Applications. If you wanted a certain program to launch every time you log into your PC, you could do that here. Let's say for example I look at IMDB a lot, the Internet Movie Database, and I want that to launch every time I start my computer. If I click add here and give it a name, so I'll just call it IMDB, and then the command, if I click browse, we need to locate the web browser, which is currently Firefox. To help us find this, if you open a terminal, you can do this by pressing the keyboard shortcuts Ctrl-Alt-T. If we then type which and the name of the program that we're looking for, in this case Firefox, and press enter, this shows us the file path here. So if we close the terminal and click other locations and computer, and we're looking for that path, which is obviously USR or user bin, and then rather than scrolling through this entire bin directory, we can click the little magnifying glass to search here, and if we type Firefox you can see it there. So now that that's there and selected, I can click open. This command on its own will launch the Firefox web browser, but since we don't just want it to open the web browser, we actually want it to open and take us to a specific site. We need to put that inside quotes. That's to keep it separate from the address of the website that we want it to open, which in this example is IMDB, and that will also need to be in quotes with a space between them. So let's grab that URL now. If we launch Firefox and search for IMDB and click the link and then select it in the address bar and press Ctrl-C on the keyboard to copy, close that and come back in here and Ctrl-V to paste the address and close the quote. You can optionally add a comment if you want to, and then click add. And now we have this IMDB entry at the top of our startup applications. So if I was to reboot the computer, Firefox would launch and take us straight to the IMDB website. As that was just for demonstration, I'm going to remove that entry and come out of there. Back in the System Tools category, we've got the Software Updater, which you could manually check for updates in there if you wanted to. If we scroll down, we've also got Zorin Appearance. This is a useful one because on the desktop tab we can control what icons show on the desktop. So you might want to put a tick in here to show the home directory or reveal the rubbish bin. If we scroll down, you can also control what side the title bar buttons appear on. So if you're more familiar with Windows, you can leave it on right, or if Mac is your preference, you could alter it to left. On the theme tab, you could play around with the colours. It's currently by default set to a light mode, but you could change it to a dark one if you'd sooner, or there's this nice option that will change between the two depending on the time of day, so set those as you would like. You can alter the system fonts on the fonts tab, or on the panel tab you can change the panel, which is this strip, what would be the taskbar in Windows along the bottom. And then a very useful program in System Tools, if we scroll down to the bottom, is this Zorin Connect. As it tells us on the screen, this allows you to connect your computer with your mobile device, so you can sync notifications between your phone and your computer. You can browse photos from your phone, you can share files, send them back and forth, reply to SMS messages, text messages, or even use your phone as a remote control for your computer. For this to work, you need your phone and your computer to both be connected to your home network, and you also need to install the Zorin Connect app on your phone. I'm going to quickly demonstrate how to do that on an Android device now. So if we launch the Google Play Store and then we search for Zorin Connect, and here we go, Zorin Connect by Zorin OS Technologies Limited, and we need to install that. And then we can either tap open here, or if you go back to the home screen, hopefully it's put an icon there for you. Let's launch Zorin Connect on Android. If we now go back to our computer and click Next on the Zorin Connect software, you're looking for your Android device to show up here under Devices. For demonstration purposes, I'm running Android inside of VirtualBox, but this would be the name of your mobile phone here. So let's click on that to start the connection process. And now you need to go back to your Android device, which is hopefully detected your computer. So if you tap on that, and now we're going to tap on the request pairing. And if we switch back to our computer again, we can now see we've got a pairing request from our Android device, so accept that. And if we close that and come down here on the taskbar, we've got this new icon on the left hand side. If we click on it, you should see your Android device listed, and if you click on that, you've now got all of these features that you can try out between the two devices. Likewise, back in the Android app, we've now got all of these interconnecting features that we can utilize. So enjoy your new connectivity between your phone and computer. In the utilities category, we've got backups. If you've been using computers for any length of time, you'll already know how important it is to take regular backups, so let's turn that on. If we have a quick look down here and click folders to save, you can see it's going to save our home directory, which should have majority of our files and folders in there as we create them. By default it's going to ignore the downloads folder, so it won't back that up, but if you wanted it to back up your downloads as well, you can select it and then click the little minus button to remove it from the ignore list. In the storage location, you need to set where your backups will reside. So if you click this drop down list, you can choose where you want that to be. Now it's not much use storing your backups on the same computer, because if the computer crashes then you could lose your backups as well. So at the very least you want to put them on a removable drive or something similar. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to set it up on a USB drive I've got connected to the computer. You can enter a name in here for what you want to call the folder it creates to put the backup into. So I'll just call it backup, and then we can set up a backup schedule or just leave it on the defaults. And that's almost it for our backup. If we go back to the overview tab and click backup now, Zorin OS does actually need to pull in the duplicity backup software to perform its backups, but this is easily done by clicking install and entering your password. And as simple as that, it's now ready to create our first backup. As it tells us on the screen, you now have the option to create a password to encrypt your backup. If you do this, make sure you don't lose your password, else you won't be able to restore your own backups. Or alternatively, you can select the allow restoring without a password option and click forward. And that's it, we've now created our first backup. In the utilities category characters, Zorin OS has a range of these characters built in that might be useful for your messaging or social media. Lots of people seem to love their emojis, so just click on a character to copy it. The disk usage analyzer can be a handy tool. For example, if you select your home folder, you can look down here and see which folders are using the most space on your hard drive. Also in the Start menu's Utilities category, you've got a Help section, so there's lots of information in here in case you get stuck. System Monitor is like Task Manager in Windows. You can see the processes here that are running. You could right click on one and stop it or even kill it. Just be careful as you don't want to crash your operating system. And then we've also got the terminal. Linux and the terminal go back a very long way, and while you certainly don't have to use it to be able to use Zorin OS, you can get more out of the operating system if you're not averse to giving it a go. I'll just show you a couple of quick commands to get you going. We already looked earlier at how to update Zorin OS through the GUI, but you can do exactly the same thing in the terminal. To do this, just type sudo apt update and press enter, and then enter your password and press enter again. What that's done is checked with the online repositories to see if all of the software packages on our system are up to date. As you can see here, they are, but if that wasn't the case, you'd type sudo apt upgrade and press enter, and then to install any packages that were waiting, you'd type Y on your keyboard and press enter. And when we're finished in the terminal, you could click the cross like you would any other window up there to close it, or alternatively we can type exit and press enter. Hopefully that quick little demonstration has shown you that the terminal doesn't have to be a scary place to be. Back on the Start menu, if you click your account name here, that will launch the settings for the account where you can change things like the password. And then below that we've got links to the main directories on our computer. You can just click one of these to have a look inside by launching the file manager. Possibly one of the most useful features of the operating system is its software center, which you can get to through clicking the link here on the Start menu or down here on the taskbar. And in here we can really go to town by exploring all of the available apps that we can add to our operating system. You can either click into a category to explore software in that area, or look through the editor's picks, or you can come to the little magnifying glass up here and search for some software if you know what you're after. If you recall earlier, I mentioned that Firefox is the default web browser in Zorin OS, but if you'd prefer something else, you can install it from within the software center. To demonstrate, I'm going to install the Chromium web browser, which is the open source version of Google Chrome. To do that, I just type Chromium in the search bar and press enter, and there you go, it's the top entry. So if I click on that, and then all I need to do is click the install button, enter my password, and that's it. We've now got Chromium installed in Zorin OS. So I could launch it from here, but if I close the software center and come back to the Zorin start menu and have a look in internet, we can see the Chromium web browser there. Now if it doesn't appear straight off, you can log out and log back into Zorin with the logout button here, and then it should show up after that. You can obviously launch Chromium just by clicking here, but it can be handy to put it either on the desktop or the taskbar at the bottom of the screen. So let's do both of those. If we right click on Chromium and first add to favourites, that will add it down here on the taskbar, or right click again and add to desktop, and there you go, it's on the desktop as well. If you later decided you no longer wanted the shortcut, you can right click on the desktop one and move to the rubbish bin. Having only just added it, I'm not going to do that here. Alternatively, if you no longer wanted the shortcut on the panel, you could right click on that one and remove from favourites. Again, I'm not going to do that now. If you want to remove a program, it's as easy as going back into the software center and then clicking on the installed tab at the top, and then finding the program in the list and clicking the remove button next to the one you want to uninstall. You can also click on updates at the top to manually check if there's any new releases for the software that's installed on your system. Next on the start menu we've got settings. So this is a lot like settings or control panel in Windows. You can make all kinds of adjustments and tweaks by using the various options available on the left hand side here. This online accounts section can be very useful, as you can connect to lots of the most popular online services from here. The devices section near the bottom is where you would come to add things like printers. And back in the main settings at the very bottom, this details section has the default applications. Since we've installed the Chromium web browser, we may well want to change that in here so that Chromium is now the default web browser instead of Firefox when you launch an internet web page. Another useful feature that Zorin OS offers us is this activities overview. Activities are basically like virtual desktops, so the idea being that if you have quite a heavy workflow, you can separate different activities from one another. To demonstrate this, if I click to go back to the desktop and launch the Chromium web browser, let's position that by grabbing the top nearer the center of the screen. If I click now to go back to the activities overview, you can see I've got that one desktop with Chromium web browser open, but if I come across to the right, there's that desktop there with Chromium, but we've got a second desktop available here. So if I double click on that, we've now effectively opened a second virtual desktop, so I could launch a different application. Let's say I wanted to do some office work in LibreOffice Writer. I can now do my work in here, but then if I came back to the activities overview, I could double click the first virtual desktop and come back to the Chromium browser, and in this way we can keep our workflows separate. You could even go into another virtual desktop, so this would be desktop number 3, and open yet another application. Since this idea of virtual desktops can be such a useful one, wouldn't it be nice if there was a faster way to switch between them rather than keep coming down to the start menu and going into activities overview? Well, as luck would have it, there is. To set this up, let's go to Start and System Tools, and then scroll down to Zorin Appearance. And if we click on the Panel tab, we can toggle on this Show Activities button. And if we close that and look down here on the panel, you can see we've got this new icon. Clicking that will now take us straight into our activities overview. If even that's too much like hard work, you can obviously just click on the application down here in the panel that's already open. So LibreOffice Writer there, or Chromium there. That will likewise flick you between the different virtual desktops that the respective apps are open in. Or another option is to hold down the Windows key, or super key as it's known in Linux, and tap the Tab key on your keyboard, and that will alternate between the various applications that you've got open, and when you want to select one, just release the super key. This next tip isn't unique to Linux, but it's useful nonetheless if you've never come across it before. Let's say I wanted to view two different things side by side, so for example two different websites. I could right click on Chromium and open a new window, and then if I click and drag on the top bar and move it to one side of the screen until that shadow appears and let go, and then do the same thing to the other side of the screen and let go, I've now got two browsers side by side. So I could have one website over here and another one over there, so I could literally be viewing or looking at two different things at the same time. Down at the bottom of the Zorin Start menu, we've got a search box here to search our computer for whatever we're looking for, and across on the right we've got options for logging out, locking the computer, or this one for powering off when we've finished and want to shut down or restart. Now across on the right hand side of the bottom panel we've got these icons, and if I click on those we've got a volume slider. We've also got information about our network connection. If you've installed the Zorin Connect, you'll have information about that there, as we looked at earlier. You've also got options for your account there. You can also access the system settings from this cog here, or lock the computer from here, or power it down from here. And then on the very bottom right here with the day and time, if we click that, we've got a calendar and a notifications section. And then the last thing I'd like to mention before we finish is if you right click on the desktop, you get this context menu, so you can create a new folder or a new document from here. You can align or organize the desktop icons. We can open the Linux terminal from here, and the one that almost everybody likes to do, myself included, is change the background. Launching that takes us into the appearance section of the settings, and if we click on background, you can either select one of the default wallpapers, or you can look at any pictures of your own that you've got on the computer, or you can choose a colour. So let's select my picture here and click the select button and close that, and there we go, we've got a nice new wallpaper on our computer. And that about brings us to the end of this video. Bear in mind, however much it might look like it, Zorin OS is not Windows. It's based on Ubuntu, which in turn is based on Debian, so at its heart is very much Linux. You certainly don't expect to go running all of your Windows software on it. I'd encourage you to fully explore the software center instead. and look for free Linux software that will allow you to complete the tasks you need to do. If there is a Windows app that you absolutely can't live without, you could always try installing Play on Linux from the Software Center. This is a friendly front end for some software known as Wine, which is designed to help you run Windows programs on Linux. How successful that will be will depend on the software you're trying to install. As I say, by far your best option is to look for Linux software that will meet your needs. You may even already be familiar with some of it, as a lot of open source software is cross-platform. I hope that already you're starting to feel at home with your new operating system. So enjoy using Zorin OS. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to be notified when I post the next one, just click the bell icon. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.